Hello there, this is Quanisha Green, the founder of Black Women's CEO, coming to you today to talk about death, despair, and entrepreneurship. Now you might be like, Quanisha, that is heavy. And it definitely is, right? So we're now in the month of April 2019, and I'm leading a series of 30 days of wealth and wellness. And it's time for us to talk about the heavy topic, which is about our mental health when it comes to being Black women entrepreneurs and just women entrepreneurs in general, right? It's really important that we start to touch on these important topics that impact how we can show up in business, that often also serve as another silent killer of our leadership and success. And I'm really excited that we're actually going to have some experts coming into our community to support you and answer some of your questions around mental health and wellness. So I will share those details at the end of the video just so that you can have it. So you don't have to answer this in the chat for your own anonymity, but I want you to take a second and think about as you have navigated this entrepreneurship journey. So whether you've been thinking about ideas, maybe you started up and started to, get clients around your particular interest, or maybe you are an entrepreneur who's in that growth and expansion phase and you have had, some challenges around the way, though you've been bringing consistent income. But just checking with yourself. Have you ever felt anxious, right? Have you ever felt depressed? Right. And some of you may have even gotten to the point where you're like, is this even worth it? Or maybe even thinking if your life is worth it. Right. And once again, this is you checking in with yourself. You don't have to share this publicly in that sense. But basically, have you ever struggled with anything related to mental health? Right? Anything related to your health and well-being when it's come to your state of mind, right? Have you ever felt hopeless in any way? Have you questioned your ability to even change your life, right? Some of those things can all fall under mental illness. And like I said, my goal today isn't for you to expose yourself, but I wanted to talk about some of these challenges. You may be aware that American women, specifically white, non-Hispanic American women, are experiencing a high mortality rate and morbidity rates due to a collection of factors that are called deaths of despair. Now, the thing is that these deaths are being attributed to overdose, suicide, and alcohol abuse. And, your economic standing doesn't really save you for that. But this U.S. health disadvantage, while more pronounced in white, non-Hispanic women, is really affecting women of all races, right? And while there's not research showing that particularly entrepreneurship is an indicator for suicide, there has been a number of reports and existing studies examining that that entrepreneurship has been having some impacts on mental health, right? Particularly, there was such a series of deaths, like a number of entrepreneurs that committed suicide that were males, that there was this call to action to examine if the pressure of being a founder, right, and this community's relentless pursuit of greatness in some way contributed to their deaths. And there's even a name for it called founders blues, right? Founders blues. So while this examination was around men, I started to question, should we not consider the same examination for women entrepreneurs, particularly after Kate Spade took her own life back in, it was like June of 2018. I started to think about the shame and silence that we have around mental health and entrepreneurship. I actually wrote an op-ed called Breaking the Silence, I Could Be Kate Spade, where I, kind of came out. Well, I've always been open about my mental health and my struggles with bipolar disorder, PTSD, and other things that were influenced by my childhood and how that has expressed itself and impacted my business. But I kind of revealed in the op-ed how just days before I found myself on the floor crying, like wondering, is this ever going to get better? And then, having Kate Spade took her life, I was like, wait, that could have been me. Like, I was wondering if this is worth it. And while there's been a lot of attention, once again, on males, right, we've had even women in our, you say the Black women entrepreneur space. One person you may think of is TT Branch from Miss Jessie, who took her own life, right, from a high stress situation that she was dealing in her own life. So there are a number of stressors that can impact us as we go on this road to entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship in itself has a high amount of stress. Think about often the risk that you are taking by forging your own path, right? Especially if you left your job full time. I know sometimes I can get stressed thinking about where's money coming in, where's the consistent cash flow, what am I doing to show up for my business every day, and say something doesn't go right, right? You're like, oh, how am I going to start over? Right? Especially if you take a lot on even in your regular life, and now you're adding this big component of entrepreneurship, right? And so when you combine that with a lot of other things that may be existing in your life, it can create this perfect storm. And people are saying, hey, we do go through that a lot. Thank you all for checking in and kind of supporting this. So hi, Levon. Hi, Gwen. Yes, I just wanted to come and talk about this topic, not too long, but to bring it to the space, right? So when we think about wealth and wellness, we also need to consider our mental health, right? The things that can stop us from showing up and be full and present in our life, but our business in general. So I'm really excited that next week, that's October 24th, so Wednesday, October 24th at 7 p.m., I actually invited one of my past clients and really great, you can say CEO friends, CEO sisters, Leslie Garcia. She's a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Counseling Space. And we're going to have a conversation around CEO wellness solutions, right? Some of the things that you can do to really shore up and have support around yourself so that, you know, if you face the blues, right, you know how to recover and bounce back from it. And if you have more challenging mental health, like maybe a condition, like I have a consistent condition that I have to tend to, you'll have some tools and strategies, as well as she's a resource in herself. She offers virtual counseling and some other things to help you with moving through some of these challenges you may face as an entrepreneur in general, a woman entrepreneur, and even a Black woman entrepreneur as you're navigating, you know, running your own company. But today I just wanted to share 3 measures that I employ to manage my mental health disorder, combat suicidal ideation, and just be well, right? So one of the things I really suggest is you having a support system, right? And support systems are recommended for those suffering from depression and mood disorders especially. But in general, support systems, they help you to counter isolation that can exacerbate a condition or even a high stress situation. And when we talk about that shame and silence, shame also gets decreased by opening up about your personal experiences, you know, hopefully in a trusted environment. So in my life, friends and family have played a crucial role in this. You know, they listen to me during my worst moments, and they often can relieve me of motherhood too, right? Duties. Like I've been gifted even massages, house cleaning, other things, babysitting, right? So that people can kind of take some of this load and stress off. Also, my husband and my friends, I call them my business besties, you know, they constantly remind me of the importance of self-care because it's so easy for me to overwork. You know, raise your hand virtually, and you can put yes if you easily overwork, right? And for me, overworking or exhausting myself is another stressor, and that can really trigger a breakdown, right? In some way, or depression. For me, depression is such a physical experience, right? So it's not always like, oh, I'm crying, I'm sad about something. It's my body feels heavy. It's hard for me to get out of bed, or it feels like a cloud is over my eyes, right? So I have to be really conscious of overworking and have some, you know, supports in place. Even my therapist that I see every week, and right now I'm seeing him twice a week, right, to help me to make sure that I'm tending to my self-care and even having a space where I can share. So let me know in the chat, or if you're listening to this later, I do want to share this on the podcast. So if you're listening to this later, definitely come into our Black Women CEO Circle, which is our online sanctuary. And I'll put the link in the notes for this episode so that you can even have a safe online space, a sanctuary where you can share what you do as far as support systems, or we can even give you some ideas if you feel like you don't have one. And that's actually why I created the Black Women CEO Circle, was because I wanted you to have community and support on this journey. So I'd love to know, what are you doing in the ways of support to make sure, you know, you have folks around you that you can lean on, right, during this journey. And that's another reason too why I join masterminds and business communities, because particularly if some of your angst is around entrepreneurship, while people can, you know, I guess give you some comfort, they sometimes don't understand your walk. right? And it's not saying something's wrong if that person still works 9 to 5 or is a careerist, right? But they may not understand the particular things around entrepreneurship, right? Good or bad. They may not know, like, hey, you got a subscriber, you want to celebrate, right? Or none of your marketing efforts are building your list, and they won't maybe sometimes understand the power and impact of that. So being in a community with other Black women CEOs, emerging currently, is a good place to be, because, you get people who get your walk. So that's another reason why I join masterminds and a community. And that's why at Black Women CEO, everything we do has community as part of it, because the research shows community is a protective factor for Black women, right? So how are you engaged in community to remind, to get these reminders that you're loved, right? That you're needed, that you're valuable. So I'd love to hear some of the things you may be doing to support yourself with that. And I'm just seeing some of the comments here. And people are saying yes. Okay. And so the second thing I wanted to talk about, which I kind of mentioned in my support system, that although support systems are helpful, like I said, friends, family, peers, it's also a huge responsibility to put the weight, particularly if you have a mental health condition, on friends and family, right? Because I know for me, I have a mental health condition. They're often ill-equipped to provide that consistent and tailored support and strategies that you need for a deeper level of recovery, right? So it's really important that in this arsenal, right, this tool belt you have for your support systems, that you're actually seeking professional help through a therapist, right? And there's so many different versions of therapists. You have licensed clinical social worker, you have psychologists or PhDs, you can even see doctoral students or in their practicum, right? You have so many different options for getting, almost like certified, board certified mental health professionals. But, unfortunately, another thing, once again, that comes up is that, women, we can be shamed for seeking help, particularly as Black women. I remember having my family members feeling that shame that I was already feeling when they were questioning my reason for even seeking professional help. And they were almost concluding that my problems were due to a character, right? A character flaw or lack of faith. So here are some of the things they've actually said. You just have to be mentally stronger, right? Put ditto if you've heard someone tell you that, right? Turn to God and pray about it. That's another one. You need to just get over it. Stop being lazy, right? These are some of the things that my family has said to me. And I've learned to forgive because I realized it was coming from a place of ignorance about mental health and maybe how, particularly my specific condition could show up. And I had to also learn to not be in denial, right, about it too, because a lot of this was self-criticism. And my therapist even helped me to understand, like, what was Quanisha, right? And what was this condition in mental health? So having formal support, right, can be so important because this person is an expert, right? They've gotten certified in this. They've, done studies and, helped lots of people by the time they got into you to help work through it. And there's such I can say nowadays, a major campaign around mental health and Black women and going to therapy that I think even that shame and stigma around it has been reduced. So, and there's so many resources, like if you wanted to read about other people's experiences, I think there's Therapy for Black Girls. I think that's the website. I'll look it up and post it in the notes as a resource that, you can even find therapists who are also African-American if you're worried about someone not understanding your cultural experience and how it may be impacting your mental health. And people writing absolutely awesome. And so one, a therapist can be the person who helps you, once again, separate your mental health condition from your identity. And she can be the one to inform you that it's okay not to do it all. Let me know if you're a person who does it all. Write that in the chat. Or once again, you can share these experiences in our Black Women CEO circle. If you're someone who's like, yeah, I'm the one who does it all. I'm the one that makes it happen. I'm the one everyone can count on when things go wrong. And the research also shows that when around our, sense of self, that we are often rewarded as Black women for over serving. Right? We serve our communities, we serve our families, we serve our religious organizations, but we often don't turn that nurturance necessarily to ourselves. Like I just did a poll in the Black Women CEO Circle asking folks about self-care, and a number of folks said they didn't have a self-care regimen or strategies. I was happy to see a number of folks did. So some of us are very conscious about this. But just because you're doing self-care, so like, we actually are having another expert that's coming, but she's just coming as a featured expert in the Aya Network, which is our private community, which you can join. So you can go to Black Woman CEO and just click the tab Join Community if you want to hear more about that. Aisha Moore, who has a master's in public health, she's actually coming to talk about self-care, right? The missing investment in your business too. So, but one thing I love about Aisha is that she talks about, I've taken a number of her courses, she talks about self-care, not just about getting our hair done and manicures, right? So while that may be you taking time for yourself, those things aren't necessarily restorative, right, all the time. So there are other types of self-care we may not have in our arsenal that's really restoring us, right? Restoring our energy and reserves and things like that, right? So often your therapist may be able to see things you're doing in your life that you're not aware of that may not be contributing to your health, right? And it's okay that we not do it all. And although this is an option some women don't have available to them because, there are a number of women of color who, unfortunately, we can often be in the lowest tiers of jobs and maybe not have that space in our social environment as well as economically to sometimes take a day off, right? And get what you need or can afford these, what may be seen as luxuries as a massage. But there's so many things that we can also do when you learn about effective self-care and mental health practices that doesn't necessarily require more money. Another thing you may consider when it comes to mental health treatments is actually taking medicine, right? So psychiatric care and medicine are also options to alleviate and lessen the symptoms of chronic depression, anxiety, and mood swings. And a lot of research shows that, psychotherapy and psychiatry together really makes an effective combination when it comes to getting well and healing and recovering from conditions. And once again, you don't need to have a mental health condition to tend to your mental health. It really is all about mental wellness. So you don't need to have a condition on the books to do any of this stuff or to see a therapist or anything like that. I know for me, after having my second child, actually it was both of them, postpartum depression was a big thing, right? And some people have that without having a history of mental health conditions, and it can go away, right? Sometimes we have situational depression or anxiety, and those things can definitely go away. And then some of us have more conditions, right, that requires almost ongoing maintenance and management. The other thing I suggest for really starting to tend to your mental health and all these things is actually speaking up. Right? Because think about this. If we share our story with someone who responds with empathy and understanding, shame cannot survive, right? It can't. And Dr. Brene Brown says that shame is a social concept. It happens between people. It also heals best between people, right? So while we have all these examples on how women can excel, even living with mental health conditions, right? Before Kate Spade actually took her life, she was doing really well. There's a lot of founders who may say they have depression who, are doing well in work and life. There's also, examples of women. Well, let me say this. Of course, we have examples of women who have success and maybe pain, right? But what I've learned is that as I've become more transparent and very authentic in sharing my story, I find that other women, right, entrepreneurs also start to reveal their battles with mental health condition. And I can see myself in their stories and they saw themselves in my stories. And so we kind of open a space and dialogue to just bring these issues to light, right? Well, that's why I say breaking the silence, because then you'll kind of figure out you're not the only one, right? You're not the only one. That is such an important thing to feel like, oh, there's others like me. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not broken. I'm not flawed. I don't need to hide something, right? When we start to share our stories, we learn that we're not the only ones, right? So to break the silence, to end the same with these mental health struggles or challenges or even conditions, we must share and start to see ourselves in each other's stories, right? So although Black Women CEO is geared towards Black women, I just want more women in general talking about our mental wellness and health, but then particularly because the research shows, particularly with women of color around the world, Caribbean and beyond, that, because of our culture, especially the strong Black woman thing that is so prevalent in many of our societies, but particularly in the US, that we don't talk about these inner struggles that we can have. And so having empathy is such an antidote to shame, right? So hearing other people's stories, you share. And I'm not saying you got to get on Facebook Live like I do and share your mental health stuff or write to your whole email community. But once again, just starting to, even in your inner circle, share, right? Maybe what you're experiencing, once again, the other person may relate to you. And then we reduce the shame and we eliminate the stigma that is around it, right? And particularly when you get to the more severe things around like suicide or suicide ideation, it can actually decrease the chance of it happening by us talking with someone and maybe even walking them through getting support. Right. So mental wellness is an ongoing battle. I call it a battle, right? Because I have some real risk factors and it does feel like I am battling all the time. But you can say it's a journey, right? It's something that we have to continue. But I know I make a conscious commitment to fight, right? These urges they may have, to fight depression, to fight feeling sad. I don't always win every day, but right, I put a lot more supports in place. And I feel like by talking about wealth and wellness, that it also brings it to our space so that we can all be safe. We can all be healthy as we journey through this as entrepreneurs, right? And and so one thing is, I love this Marianne Wilson quote from Our Deepest Fears, and she says something about being liberated. So I fully believe personally that as I'm liberated from my own fear and shame, my presence automatically liberates others. And that's the same for you. As we start to stand for what we value and we share that, it allows others to step forward to stand in what we value. So I guess my call to action to you today is, will you stand up? Right? Will you share, some of the inner things that may be going on with a friend, right? It can be someone that you trust. Or if you are struggling with something, share an emotion. Like, if it's fear coming up, is it fear of success or failure? And once again, the Black Women CEO Circle can be a great place where you have a safe place to share these things. It's a no judgment zone. And we always are chiming in like, girl, I feel you. I have the same thing going on, right? So you don't have to be alone in that. But starting to speak your truth, right? Share your truth. I see it as a way to spit in the face of shame and to let women know that we don't have to silence and suffer. And I want you to know that too. Like, I see you, I hear you, I probably know your walk, right? And that is also why I'm bringing that resource to our community, Leslie Garcia, next Wednesday at 7. And I'll send emails out and posts and things like that, so that if you do have questions around mental health or just wellness, right, and you want some solutions, definitely come and attend live, because she's going to answer questions. If you want to submit questions ahead of time, just post them in the group and I can send them to Leslie to make sure that she can, that we can speak to that as we're having a conversation. So, I want us to listen to one another. I want us to hold space for one another. I want us to encourage one another and support one another, right? And I am kind of asking you, will you join me in breaking the silence? Right? And you can just let me know in the chat below. And once again, if you're listening to this on our podcast, come over to the Black Women CEO Circle and perhaps share one thing that you can do to break the silence. And I'll also post the article that I wrote, like I said, Breaking the Silence, I Too Could Be Kate Spade, in our group and in our community, just so you have it. So once again, thank you for even taking this time to kind of sit with me and hear some of these things. And once again, join me next Wednesday, April 24th. And if you're watching this replay later, it's going to be in the video section of this Facebook page, our main Facebook page, because I want it to be an ongoing resource that we have this conversation that I'll be having with Leslie Garcia. Like I said, once again, she's a licensed clinical social worker. She owns her home practice, the founder of Counseling Space, and she particularly helps women of color entrepreneurs with business development and being well, right? Being well and overcoming any of those internal struggles, mental health struggles that you may be having on the way. So once again, you can ask her questions, but we'll also be sharing her information so that you can connect with her as a resource if you need that. So that's all I got for you today. And once again, I know we have another people watching live and some of you may be catching the replay. Please type #replay so I know you're here, and let me know what was your number one takeaway from today. I always want to know how our information is resonating with women in our community. And once again, I look forward to bringing you these resources on wealth and wellness. And don't forget to check out blackwomenceo.com to see other resources that we have on our main website. We have a new home, so you also go check it out. It's not on my name anymore, QuanishaSmith.com. We have Black Women CEO on its own. We have a number of resources there for you. I think even our blog post, I think is like 15 pages of blogs there. so that if you're looking for additional resources, you can go ahead and do that. But so if you want to get on our email, let's go to blackwomenceo.com. You can put that you're new to the community and sign up. You're also going to get a report on the top success secret of Black women millionaires that I found from my millionaire mentors. So you'll get that when you join the community, and you'll get the information, the reminder to around our upcoming expert session with Leslie Garcia. Okay, so I will talk to you soon. Bye.